They laughed at first. Those German pilots, cocky and confident in their Messerschmitts and Focke-Wulfs, with the swagger of victories earned in the early days of the war when their aircraft dominated the skies over Poland, France, and the Balkans, when the Luftwaffe roared like a dragon over shattered cities, spewing destruction from above, and they mocked the incoming wave of American warplanes, particularly the strange, bulky beast with a radial engine and a barrel-shaped fuselage, the P-47 Thunderbolt, which looked more like a clumsy flying oil drum than a warbird, with wings that seemed too short, a nose too wide, and an overall shape that lacked the elegance of the German designs that had ruled the air for years. But their laughter turned to grim silence the moment they witnessed the Jug in action. The moment those 8 Browning M2.50 caliber machine guns opened fire with a thunderous roar that seemed to rip the very fabric of the air, sending a hail of lead that tore through fuselages, severed wings, and left proud German pilots plunging to the earth in a twisted wreckage of fire and steel. For what the Thunderbolt lacked in grace, it made up for in sheer, brutal power, and its pilots, trained hard and flying with ruthless precision, learned quickly how to use the Jug's strengths, its exceptional diving speed, its rugged A-frame, and its ability to take an astonishing amount of punishment without breaking apart. And the Germans soon discovered that in a dive, nothing could catch it, not even the feared FW-190. For the Thunderbolt could reach terminal velocities in a screaming descent that left enemies overshooting and confused, unable to match the velocity or maneuverability at high speeds. And from these dives came death, sudden and unstoppable, as American pilots developed tactics to use the altitude to their advantage, swooping down on unsuspecting German formations with the sun behind them, opening up with synchronized .50s that turned sleek Luftwaffe planes into flaming coffins before their pilots could react. And on the ground, it was even worse, for the P-47 became the scourge of German armor and transport lines, flying low and fast across roads, railways, and columns, unleashing its fury with rockets, bombs, and strafing runs that left behind nothing but burning wreckage and the stunned silence of survivors who had seen entire convoys vanish in seconds beneath the relentless onslaught. And it was not just the firepower, but the sheer durability of the plane that left German soldiers and pilots alike in disbelief. For stories spread quickly among Luftwaffe squadrons and Wehrmacht units of Thunderbolts returning to base with wings shredded, fuselages riddled with holes, engines coughing smoke but still somehow managing to fly. And more than once, German fighters emptied their guns into a P-47 only to watch it roll, dive, and vanish into the clouds. Still flying, still dangerous, and still ready to return the next day. And then came the fear. Not the ordinary fear of combat, but the gnawing, sickening realization that the Allies had created an aircraft factory monster, a machine that not only performed in combat but was being produced in such vast numbers that the sky itself seemed to be filled with jugs, each one carrying death under its wings and the promise of domination overhead. And the psychological effect of this was devastating, for even before combat, German pilots began to dread the distinctive shape and engine rumble of the Thunderbolt, knowing it often meant a fight they could not win. And on the ground, tank crews and infantry began to call the skies cursed whenever Thunderbolts appeared overhead, for they knew that no matter how well they camouflaged, how fast they moved, or how deep they dug in, the P-47s would find them, and once found, they would be destroyed, and though some still fought bravely, the tone had changed. Gone was the laughter, replaced by clenched jaws and desperate maneuvers, by evasive dives and panicked radio calls. And as the war ground on, the Thunderbolt continued to prove its worth across multiple roles and missions, flying escort for B-17s deep into enemy territory, pounding fortifications in Italy, cutting supply lines in France, and supporting the D-Day invasion with relentless bombing and strafing that crippled the German response. And in the Ardennes during the Battle of the Bulge, when fog lifted and air power returned to the battlefield, it was the P-47s that rained fire on German columns, halting their advance and turning what had been a surprise counteroffensive into a disastrous retreat. And everywhere it went, the Jug left its mark, not just in wrecked German equipment, but in the changed perceptions of those who had once ridiculed it. and American pilots grew to love the plane not just for its power but for its ability to bring them home, to take a beating and still fly, to give them a fighting chance against the best the Luftwaffe had to offer, and pilots like Gabby Gabreski, Robert S. Johnson, and others turned the P-47 into a legend, scoring dozens of kills and proving that in the hands of a skilled pilot, this machine could dominate the skies and break the will of the enemy. And by war's end, the statistics told the story. Thousands of enemy planes destroyed, countless ground targets eliminated, and a reputation that no longer needed defending. For the Jug had become more than a plane. It was a symbol of American air power, of tenacity, of overwhelming force and unshakable resilience. And while the sleeker, longer-range Mustang would take over the escort role in later stages, the Thunderbolt's impact had already been seared into the history books, into the memories of those who faced it and those who flew it. And its legacy endured, not in museum silence but in the thunderous roar of engines at airshows, in the stories of veterans who remembered the flash of tracers and the howl of diving jugs, and in the acknowledgement that sometimes the machine they laugh at in the beginning is the one that changes the outcome of a war.